Thank you for tuning into Soul, Beauty, and Balance on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Lonnie Willis, and today our special guest is Betty Odom, Chicago icon. Iconic Betty Odom, entrepreneur and owner of Betty O'Day Spa. So I'm very, very happy to have her on the show to share her pearls of wisdom and nuggets. So much to talk about. And I've met her a long time ago, and I was just such awe. So I'm excited, everyone. Happy Sunday. So we're going to go to break, and we'll come back in a moment and jump right in on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeartRadio station. I'm Lonnie Willis.
Life used to be so free. Never worried about going outside to play hide and seek. How my things just ain't the same. Go to the market with a little change. Now even milk is cheaper than gasoline. Free, yeah. Daddy used to say we're gonna all be free. What does it mean to be free? Remember riding in the streets and absence of peace and losing our way. Oh yeah, that was yesterday. Tell me when will it change? This world must rearrange and stop. Think about our baby. Free. Daddy used to say that we're gonna all be free. Free. What does it mean? Celebrate, celebrate our freedom. But we got so much further to go. Celebrate where we've come and be free. Free, got much further to go. I wanna be free. Daddy used to say we all wanna be free. Yeah, yeah, free.
You're listening to Soul, Beauty, and Balance on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Lonnie Willis, and you just heard Free by my girl, Terry Tobin. Right here sitting next to me, I have the iconic, the very beautiful Betty Odom. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Thanks for coming in the show
You're
today.
welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm always great.
I know, and you look fabulous. Can you see her?
I can't help it.
Yeah, you say you can't help
No.
it? I love it. I love it. I love it. So I just have to, first of all, I love to ask this question. I like to know where people come from. Are you a native Chicagoan?
Oh, no. I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Really?
You ever heard of Vicksburg?
I have not.
Oh, my God. That's how the Civil War ended, was because of Vicksburg. It's right on the Mississippi River, full of hills. So therefore, they were able to cut off any boats bringing food into the Confederacy and everything else, and they couldn't outdo the hills, so they had to surrender.
So what was it like growing up there for you?
Great.
It was great.
It was freedom.
Of course.
Even though we had the signs that said colored or Negro or white, it didn't touch us at all because we had our own neighborhoods, our own schools, everything. So we never thought about what other races of people did. We just knew what we had to do.
I've heard some people speak that way. Yeah, a lot of people were right in the thick of it. You know what I mean? And then other people were connected to it in a disconnected kind of way. You know what I mean?
No, everybody in Vicksburg were connected.
You know what I mean? But like you said, you had your own
everything
community,
right? Which they had here in Chicago up until after the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yes, something else. I tell you, that's a historical moment on Soul, Beauty, and Balance. So you're from Mississippi. Vicksburg, Mississippi. And you also, I know that you went to Fisk University for college.
Well, let's put it like this. I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And then my mother moved to New York, New Rochelle, and I moved to New York. And then she passed away when I was 9 years old from tuberculosis, which was ravishing the country at that time. There was no cure for it. And then I came back south to live with my grandmother, who lived in Bolden, Mississippi, which is out from Jackson, Mississippi. And then later she moved into Vicksburg again. And I went to junior high there and finished high school. And after finishing high school, I went to Fisk University.
And what did you study there?
Let me back up a lot. I'd always wanted to be in theater.
Yeah.
And so when I chose the school, it was Pasadena Playhouse, California, or UCLA. And my father said, you can't go there because it's too far. And so I came to Chicago that summer and got a job. And a young man was across the street, said, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, I don't know. He said, have you tried Fisk University? I said, Fisk? Never even heard of it. He said, they have a good drama department there. So I sent off, got the application, and I was accepted.
Wow.
And, excuse me, that was in 1954.
Okay.
So I went to Fisk. And then while I was at Fisk, my father wrote and said, well, what are you taking at that school? And I said, theater. And he wrote back and said, what is theater? And I said, acting.
Right.
And he wrote back, all black people can act, so you better find something you can get a job.
Oh, wow.
Well, I didn't want to get a job, so I go, oh my God, what can I go into now? And I looked across at Meharry Medical College, and then I put 2 and 2 together that registered nurses were never out of work, so I changed my major to nursing and applied and got accepted.
Wow. Hey.
That's it.
The universe has always opened doors for you. Always. Wow. So then you also, to my understanding, became a lieutenant.
In the Army Nurse Corps.
Yeah.
Right. I was a second lieutenant, first lieutenant. And the reason I went into the Army is because my grandmother had raised me. And she was getting older. She was in her late 80s by that time. And I felt that she would pass away and I wouldn't get a chance to tell her how much I appreciated her raising me, because she was still working, going in at 7 o'clock in the morning to fix breakfast for the household of the people she was working with, and would not get home until maybe 7 o'clock in the evening. And so one day the Army Corps was at the school talking to the physician, nurses, and dentists, and asked if they would join, and they would be stationed at the school and would have to put in 2 years active duty once they went into the Army. So my question to them was, can you have a dependent? And they said, of course. So I joined up and made my grandmother my dependent. Right.
Wow.
And she was able to then retire from the household of the people she was working for.
Wow.
And
thanks to you.
Yeah, right. Well, heck, she raised me. You know?
Yes.
So I did get a chance to, and she didn't pass away until she was 92.
Oh,
so
that's a blessing right there. So, okay, so what was it like?
What?
In the in the Army Corps? What was that like for you? Because you know, it's like school. Yeah.
It was like school, because the first place we went was to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, which looks like a university campus. And when it became time for the medical people to do their revelry in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning, we were so horrible that they decided, hey, you guys don't have to do revelry, just show up where you're supposed to be at work hour.
Right.
And then I was able to, because while I was at Meharry, I specialized in OR nursing, operating room nursing.
Okay.
And so therefore I asked to be put in the OR when I got there, and they said that they couldn't because it was full already, and what my next assignment to be, for what I like for my next assignment to be. And I said, psych. So I was assigned to the psych ward. Well, lo and behold, one day they came to the psych ward looking for me, saying the head nurse in the OR just had to go in for emergency surgery, and we have no one else who knows how to work the OR.
Oh.
Would you mind coming over?
Oh, wow.
So then I was placed in the OR and automatically given my MOS, which is Military Occupation Specialty, which meant if I left Fort Leonard Wood, I would still be in the OR wherever I went. So it was great.
Everything was great.
Yeah, always has been.
Wow. And I just found out right before the show, moments before the show, that as a nurse, you actually worked with Martin Luther King Jr.
Right. When he was here in the city in 66, 67.
You were his nurse.
Yeah. Whenever we would go on marches, he would always need an RN and a physician beside him, just in case he got hit or shot or anything. So that's how we got to be friends. And then at the same time, I was suing all of the modeling agencies in the city of Chicago for discriminatory practices, because I went down to an agent one day to drop off my photos, and she took the photos and pulled out a bottom drawer and just dropped them in there, whereas the other drawers had female, male, teenagers, infants, blah, blah, blah. And mine went into an unmarked drawer, so I didn't like that.
So she was obviously not a woman of color.
No. There were no women of color with agencies here at that time. And so I called some of the other African-American models that were working at that time and asked them how did they feel about the treatment they'd been getting. And every audition we went on, it was all just for Negroes, who we would call Negroes at that time. Sure. And they didn't like it either. So I put in a suit with the Fair Employment Practice Bureau, and then I engaged Dr. King to help me put together the letters and things to write to them. And it went to court, and we won.
Wow.
Now, what did we win? Excuse me.
Sure.
We won the right for them to put up a sign saying that they did not discriminate.
Okay.
And that we would be sent out on auditions according to our type, whether it's ingenue or co or something like that, and would get it on our own merit. Well, at that time also, someone had said, and you don't have anyone who signed up with you personally. And one of the agencies says, well, there's only one model that I've seen here who I feel could stand a signatory. And she called me that night and said, I was talking about you, so will you sign? I said, oh, I can't do it. I'll do it after the suit, if you still want me.
Right.
And we did win, and we were sent out on auditions. But what happened is, it's funny, when you start off, you never know what's going to lead into what. But I've always been one to feel that you have to know how to do more than just one thing.
You and I talked about that on the telephone, and when you said that, I was like, oh my God, I know that was God's confirmation, because I've always felt that way. Yeah. You have a very remarkable resume. Your career is remarkable. I mean, you own a day spa. We're going to get to that too. You've been an actress, you model, a show host for a radio show, and also television. You've been a school lecturer, which I'm not sure you may still be doing that.
No, they ran me out.
Because we could talk about that too. That's interesting, because I want to know why they ran you out. Okay. And also, you're an author,
right?
And you're an esthetician as well.
Yes.
And we talked about that too before the show.
And an esthetician, for those who do not know,
is for the skin.
Is for someone who takes care of the body, the skin, the good health of individuals. Now,
yes, because I've always thought that an esthetician was pretty much a skin, not a dermatologist, but somewhere between a skin care professional.
But we're also interested in what you put inside your body to make that skin.
Because that's what makes all the difference. Exactly. That makes the most difference. Exactly. I do believe in products as well, but I've even noticed that when I change what I put in my body, sometimes I look more radiant than other times.
Exactly.
Yeah, so wow.
And it could be the fact that you're getting a little more rest too.
The rest has to do with it. There's so many different elements. Yeah. So okay, so you became a model.
Well, that was when I got to Chicago.
When you got to Chicago.
What happened was, when I first got out of the Army, I went back to New York. And I went to because remember, I had wanted to be an actress, and I got sent off to college. So when I got to New York, I started attending school at the Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. And then I would go out on auditions and things like that. And I did have the opportunity to be one of the first black people to do a network commercial for television.
Really?
Because the only other person who had done one was Nat King Cole for Coca-Cola.
What commercial did you do?
The first one I did was for Sulfur 8.
Oh, I remember. They still have Sulfur 8,
Yeah,
actually.
right. And I did that commercial, which was televised across the country. And then after that, I got married and moved here to Chicago and auditioned again for another Sulfur 8 commercial. No, excuse me. The first one was Sulfur 8. Then I did one for Atra Skincare.
Okay.
Okay, that was the next one, which was here in Chicago. And I kept going from there.
You've made quite a mark.
Not really.
Oh, yes, you have. You've made quite a mark. So let's talk about your days of radio. How did you segue into becoming a host on WBEE?
Well, someone called me one day and said that they were starting a show at Lake Meadows restaurant at noontime.
No, Lake Meadows, that is right off of King Drive and 31st, second. Okay, somewhere over there.
Right.
And so they had a restaurant?
Yeah. And we would do different guests. Usually I interviewed Eartha Kitt, the civil rights people, a lot of the singers and actors and things. And it was set up something like this, and the people would have their food and they were eating and they would get a chance to ask questions and things. So that was my first radio experience. It was live.
Who was the most memorable guest that you had, the one that was the most special? I'm sure they all were.
They all were.
You can't say too many, but the most memorable interview.
On radio?
Yeah, WBE. I imagine Eartha Kitt had to be a good one.
Yeah, because I was able to get her for something she did to me.
I met her years ago at V103.
And I had really admired her as a kid. I really looked up to her and tried to emulate her in her singing and everything. And I was filming a TV pilot called Night Watch. And I was on the bus. We filmed from 12 midnight until 6 or 7 in the morning. And someone, when I got on the bus that night, said, "Oh, Eartha Kitt is staying here in the hotel." I said, "Really? I want to meet her. And someone said, "There she comes right now." And so I said, "Okay, hold the bus for me. I'll be back." So I walked up to her and I said, "Hello, Miss Kitt. I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Betty Odom." So I said, "Well, I've always admired you and felt if I ever got an opportunity to meet you, I would like to do so." And then it clicked, and I said, "So, nothing. Apparently you don't want to be bothered." And she said, "No, I don't." And I said, "Then excuse me." I said, "I will not bother you. Are you the young lady that was knocking on my door last night for my autograph?" I said, "Excuse me?" She repeated the question. And I said, "No, I'm usually running away from autograph hounds myself." "Oh, you're in the business?" "Yes." "Oh, well, come down and see the show." She was doing Owl and the Pussycat, I think. "Have you seen it?" I said, "No." "Well, then I invite you to see it." I said, "I had all intentions of doing it, but I don't think so now." Have a good night. And I walked away. So one day they told me, "Eartha Kitt's going to be on today. She's your guest." I said, "Okay, fine." The show started at 12, from 12 until 1. And we asked her to be there like you asked me to be here, quarter of. And I made sure that she was the last person for that segment, the quarter of 12. And she wanted to leave, and I was hoping she would, because those people in that audience would have torn her up because they didn't really care for her anyway. So when she finally came up, she said, "Oh, so nice to meet you." I said, "We've met before, but you probably wouldn't remember." So I said, "Miss Kitt, I find that I have liked you since I was a little girl. I was in love with you and wanted to emulate you. And all of the things that you did, I wanted to do. You spoke several different languages, even though you didn't get a chance to go to school until you was 9 years old, and you'd never seen an indoor toilet until you were 12. But yet you went on to become what you became."
Successful.
I said, "So then the rumors started that you didn't really particularly care for Negro people. And how would you answer that now? Oh, it was a big mistake. It was a big mistake. That was not true. That was just a rumor that was put out. And that was the way I was able to get back at her.
Well, and you did it with class.
Mm-hmm.
You did it with class. It's interesting. I just wonder why it doesn't matter. I never understand why people carry themselves like that.
I don't know.
To me, it's not attractive. It's not impressive. It has to be.
Insecurity.
You know, it has to be. There's something on the inside of you that is empty,
right,
that makes you feel that you need to treat other people or speak to other people in that kind of way. I actually met her at the radio station at V103. She spoke, but she was very short. Hi, good evening, or good afternoon, or whatever. I said, okay, I'm going to keep going.
Right.
To the programming department. Okay.
Exactly. So I had my revenge, as you call it. Very seldom do I take revenge on anything, but you come.
I look at it this way. You just let her know. Because here's the thing. People never know who they're talking to.
Exactly.
You never know who you encounter, who you ignore, who you may not have time for, whatever the case is, because a lot of times you see that person again later on in life.
Exactly. Well, that's why they say, be careful of the butt you kick today. It may be attached to the feet that have to carry you tomorrow.
I've heard that. Right. That is so true. So you also had a radio show on NBC. I mean, I'm sorry, a TV show.
Television show.
TV show.
On NBC.
NBC, yes. It was a Sunday weekly show?
Yeah, every Sunday. I had it for 5 years, I think it was. It started out a half hour and then went up to an hour and a half. And it was all live. And I got a chance to meet a lot of nice people there, too.
What was it? Was it a certain theme?
It was just like the Today Show.
Okay.
The same people that they interviewed this week, we may interview them next week, or if we interview them this week, then the Today Show may interview them the next week.
That is fascinating.
So that was great.
I would love to see clips of those.
Huh?
I would love to see that. See you hosting the show. That would be amazing.
Yeah, there was a co-host, a young white man by the name of Bob Hale, and the two of us hosted together. It was quite interesting because we did a lot of stuff outside the studio. We had, at the end of the show, we would always have our Sunday's Child, which usually was a baby that was up for adoption.
Oh.
And we would present this baby and hope that they would be adopted. Oh. We'd also go out, like jumping horses or riding logs, or we had a segment called Man on the Street, where we would interview people on Michigan Avenue or State Street or somewhere. So it was quite a good show. I
think I found my second mentor.
Oh, really?
Ernest Collins is my photography mentor.
Oh, really?
Yes,
yeah,
he
you
is.
told me that.
Yes, I bumped that. Yeah, so now I have I don't know, I want to say a wellness career mentor. I don't know. I love it. So what I want to do, though, I want to go to break, and then I want to come back and talk about a few more things and find out how Betty O'Day Spa came about. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a brief break, and we'll come right back on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeartRadio station. Don't move.
Next thing I knew, I was out of my mind. I couldn't even sleep, hoping and praying go away, release the hold on me. But when you least expect it happened, you feel free and you never didn't even know it. Love happened when you least expect. Yeah. No matter how hard you try, it's something that takes control of your heart. No matter how hard you try to fight it, love always wins.
You're listening to Soul, Beauty, and Balance on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Lonnie Willis, and you just heard Love Happens by Terry Tobin. I am sitting here with the very lovely Betty Odom. Thanks again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for
I don't usually get up this early.
I know. I just feel so honored because you said I usually don't do shows. I don't do things on Sundays, so I'm just happy to have you here. Before we went to break, we talked about your show on NBC called Sunday in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And, we were interested in knowing, who were some of your favorite guests that you had on there, some of the people that you actually interviewed.
Oh, I interviewed a
whole lot of people. I
right.
know.
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yes.
Barbara Walters.
Oh my God, Barbara.
And actors. Just so many.
It's so many you can't remember.
Right. They were all quality people.
I was just thinking they would have to be if they came from the Today Show. Mm-hmm. They would have to be quality people. Mm-hmm. So, what was it like interviewing Barbara, the interviewer of interviewers?
Well, I remember an incident that happened. See, in television, a lot of times you have some dead space there, and your mind sort of wanders.
Yeah.
So we were interviewing her, Bob and I, and Bob had asked her a question, and she came and said, well, I'm quite sure Betty and I agree on that, don't we, Betty? Well, I couldn't remember the question, just like I couldn't remember the names a few minutes ago. So I said, well, Barbara, let's break for a commercial, and I'll come back and answer that. So I said to Bob, what did you ask her? He said, how she felt about the women's rights movement. I said, okay. So she came back, and I said, on that question you asked about the women's rights movement, I would have to say no, we don't agree on that, because we as black women have always had the freedom to go out and work. And what we would like to do now is see some of our black men have the opportunity to get a job and go work. And we can sit home like white women do and raise our children. And she looked at me and she said, I should have known that you weren't just pretty, you had to be intelligent too. I just smiled at her.
Well, yeah.
But she's an interesting person. She had a hard time in the beginning because she was a woman. Mm-hmm. But we have hard times because we are women, also black.
African American.
So therefore,
Yeah, it's a lot tougher.
I don't really buy into all of that. Because I couldn't understand the the women's rights movement, because everything they were wanting to do, I had been doing it and was tired of it.
Yeah, I understand.
But they knew what they were looking for, because they too have been repressed, I understand.
Yeah, but not like us.
No, but then I never harp on that, because I didn't even know I was repressed. I didn't even know that I was poor, because
I heard a lot of people say that.
I always had food to eat and hugs, lots of hugs from the people around. I remember when I would come home from school, and I tell the kids that I speak to in high school, when I went away to school, I didn't go just for myself. I went for that Sunday school teacher, that fourth grade teacher, the superintendent of the Sunday school, the pastor, Miss Jones, who lived down the street, because they didn't have the opportunity to go to school. And so I would come home maybe for Christmas, and they would go, well, have you graduated yet? And I says, no, I've only been gone like 3 or 4 months. You didn't flunk out up there now, did you? No, ma'am, I didn't flunk out. And they would give me a quarter or 50 cents or something. And I was very precious, you know.
Yeah, I know you were.
So I remember that. I remember all of that. So that's what I tell the young people when I talk to them in school. You're not just representing yourself. You're representing thousands and thousands of people. But things have changed.
Things have changed. During break, you told me that actually, are you still in the schools talking to the children? And you said, well, no anymore.
I had to leave.
What happened?
Because one of the things is, about 20 years ago, I found that I was not reaching the level of consciousness that I had hoped to reach. And so I started reading and looking for things. And then one day, this person came into the office and dropped a book for me to read. And from then on, I just gobbled up everything I could think of and found out so many things. I left the church. Well, I was put out of the church, out of Sunday school when I was little for asking a question. The question was, if there were only 2 people in the world, Adam and Eve, and they had 2 children, Cain and Abel, and Cain killed Abel, yet Cain went out into the land of Nod and found himself a wife. Where did this wife come from? And they put me out of Sunday school.
You're asking too many questions.
I was asking too many questions. I got to college, and I took a course called Western Civilization, and again, I started asking questions. And then I went around to different denominations trying to see would this one fit me, and none of them did. But I still stayed with it because I'd always been a Baptist, and but I still had my questions. But then once I got on the path, I found out so many things.
Yeah, we spoke recently on the telephone, and you were telling me of a new journey that you're embarking on. You want to tell our listeners about that?
Well, it's not new anymore. It's sort of old.
Okay.
I learned to not just accept what had been told to me from the pulpit or was written in the Bible itself, because one of the things I couldn't understand was one chapter in the Bible said, and God got lonely and said, let me make man. And another one said, let us make man. And I'm going, us? You know, then I found out that it had been transcribed so many different times, and that the one that we read was King James Authorized Version. And I said, okay, it just doesn't make any sense. So I got out on my own. And I think I found the path that I need to go, because I found that church is in your heart.
I do agree, church is in your heart.
Yes, it is in your heart, and it's there every day. It's what you do with it. And that all religions are right. It's like if you want to go downtown, you can go Roosevelt Road, you can go Halstead, you can go any of the ways that you want to go, and you'll end up at the same place.
Yeah. I've never criticized other people's religion.
No.
There are some that I don't understand as much, and some may consider it may not do as much positive things. Who knows? But I always believe that my thing is, if you believe in God,
or just believe that there's a
bigger
force
than us,
greater than yourself. And I do know. You may call him Yahweh, God, anything that you want to call it, but there is someone greater than myself.
Clearly.
That I realize, right? Because the things that I know is nothing. So then I learned about vibrations and how to get on certain vibrational planes, so that we would be able to understand someone before they even open their mouth. And it's just wonderful.
And energy.
Energy
is alive, how it travels.
And you found out that people steal your energy. They love to steal it. So what I do every morning on my way to work, I will talk to the flowers and the trees and the ants and whomever, and I'd say, give me your energy, give me your strength, and I will pass it on to those for whom it was meant. And then when someone comes into the spa and I can feel that energy getting ready to pull me down, I says, no, I'll give you some, but you're not going to steal it.
Right.
And because you can end up feeling like
that is so important, Ms. Autumn. Right. Just who you spend time with, who you allow yourself to be around.
Right, exactly.
And even if it's somebody you love or care about.
Friend, I remember when I was young and I was saying my friend this and my friend that, and my grandmother would say, look, if at the end of your days you can count your friends on one hand, you're doing well. And she was right.
Yeah, because a lot of people are just associates or
Exactly.
acquaintances. But
right, on your journey.
Yes. But a friend is someone, well, we know what a friend is. You know, someone who's basically through thick and thin, who's going to be there for you, and there's no conditions.
Side of you.
The other side, the other part of you, the other side of the other half of you. I agree 100%. So, like I said, for anyone who may be just tuning in, you are definitely an entrepreneur. You're the owner of Betty O'Day Spa. You've been an actress. You've modeled, radio and television host, lecturer, author. I don't want to forget that. You've written 2 books. What 2 books did you write? Because I definitely want to get to that spa.
I wrote one which was a fictional called Colored Grits. And GRITS stands for Girls Raised in the South, Colored Girls Raised in the South.
Really?
And then I wrote one which was composed of articles that I've written concerning skincare and how to handle certain things.
I think that's the one that I saw. I saw that one online, too.
That one's called Betty Odom Face to Face.
And I think that one can be purchased on Amazon.com?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Look it up. Look it up. I know it's worth our salt to read it. So, how, with all these wonderful things that have happened, how did you decide to open Betty O'Day Spa that's located in Hyde Park?
Well, I after the show went off the air, I wanted to do something, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was offered the news, but I don't like the news because I was offered the show that Oprah came here to take too.
Really?
Yeah, but I didn't want that because you had to get up too early, and I was at swimming at that time. So I didn't want to leave my swimming, which I still do every morning. Good. And I said, okay, I'll go to Paris. Then I go, when should I go to Paris? April in Paris. Okay. And I took off and went to Paris. On my way, I stopped in New York, and my girlfriend, who had modeled with me here in Chicago, had just returned from Paris and had opened a skincare salon and gave me a facial. And I thought that was the most luxurious, relaxing service I'd ever had. And she said, why don't you go into the business? And I said, because I'm not going back to school, even if it takes another school to get me to heaven. I'm not going. I'll ask God, is there somewhere else I can go? So she said, but you wouldn't have to take any courses. All you would have to do is learn techniques and products because you already know anatomy and physiology and everything. And at the time, I said, no, you're right. So I looked into it when I was there. And then I went back and started taking classes and came back, and my girlfriend in New York was like, well, did you open? I said, no. Number one, I didn't have the money to open with, but I didn't want to disappoint her. So I received something from the bank one day that said, get a loan to buy a boat or motorcycle or this or that. I said, well, maybe they'll give me one to open a business. And I went down and they did. Of course, they wanted to know, facial salon, what is that? Blah, blah. But anyway, that's the story of that. And I've been going ever since. And,
you know, I was reading it. People look at your spa as, I don't want to call it like the pioneer of spas.
It was the first
black
spa in the world.
Really?
We're talking back in the 70s.
Do you see what we have on our show?
We're talking about in the 70s. And they said, oh, you know, nobody would want to let you put your hands in their face and blah, blah, which, you know, most people don't. But I had some good people.
It's been years since I stopped by your spa when I went. And I've been to come over the last couple months when we've been during our correspondence. Been really, really super busy, but it is beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think you said you moved from that location to a different one. So where are you at currently, now, so people know?
1424 East 53rd Street, above Boston Market, Suite 304.
And so what can people expect to experience when they come there?
Heaven.
Heaven. Heaven on earth.
Heaven. Right. And, you know, one of the things, especially with people of color, is they're always doing something for someone else, and they're always putting themselves second. And I tell them, if you got on a plane, the pilot says to you, if the plane gets in trouble, put the seatbelt on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. Save yourself, then you can save someone else.
Yeah.
But they're doing it for their mother-in-law, their children, then their grandchildren, and all of this. And then they come second. Yeah. And you pay people's gas, and Miss People's Gas goes away to a destination spa, and you pay Commonwealth Edison and Mrs. Commonwealth Edison and Mr. Edison go away to a destination spa. So people should be able to put aside one day and come to a day spa.
I'm at a different phase in my life now, and I think a lot of us are reaching a higher level of consciousness and just understanding just what works and what doesn't work. But I come from a time in which the more you did for other people, the whole thing was looking selfless. Because you're selfish if you put yourself first.
In our culture, you were told not to look in the mirror. You were vain. Don't wear red. You're too dark to wear that color. You should have gotten that for your sister because she needed it more than you did. And of selfishness. They don't want you to be selfish. Well, let's look at it like this. Do for yourself first, then you can do for someone else.
Yeah, that's what I came to realize. I'm really no good to anyone else unless I take care of myself first as the best I can. Right. Do the optimal. Lonnie optimally is better than Lonnie just kind of here but not really here. You get the better part of me. Yeah, so.
But you have to do that and mean it and not have guilt feelings. A lot of things I find this culture of African Americans, we suffer from guilt a lot of times.
We do.
Well, I must say I've never felt guilty about anything. I don't know if it was because I was an only child, so I had to make up my play friends and things like that. But
I grew up alone. My sister was older, so I know that feeling. Michael Jackson and the Jacksons, they were my companions. I listened to music a lot. Yes.
But we make it.
Yes, we do. We do make it. So back to the spa. So the people can get facials, massages, and hydrotherapy. I'm not sure I know what that is. What is that?
Water therapy.
Okay.
That's what spa means.
Okay.
Healing with water. So if a place does not have any water therapy, it's not a spa, it's a salon. And people, I think, like French words, and they just stick it a spa, dog spa, cat spa, car spa. Right. But it's water therapy, and it's what we put in the water that will help your arthritis or help your dry skin or whatever.
Wow. Yep. Definitely have to come by and enjoy the amenities.
Right. And don't be in a hurry when you come to a spa because
I hear you.
You're down after you leave.
I hear you.
Just go home, go to lunch, or go home and go to bed.
Because I do a lot of ripping and running, and I do agree that it's important to just slow it down. And I'm starting to realize that usually after the show, this is my slow it down day, where I'll go do brunch or something alone and have my computer and just write down some goals and different things. Two things that you said to me, and I have to bring it up again on the telephone. This one I didn't mention on the air just yet, but you told me never wait, and this is kind of switching subjects a little bit, but I really want to bring this up. Never wait on someone else to do something. Because you asked me a question about something, and I provided an answer, and I said, well, after this, then this was my decision. And you said never do that.
No, you are the captain of your ship. You're the master of your soul.
Yeah.
So therefore, why would you wait on them? You don't even know where they are by this where their level of consciousness is.
That's true. And the thing is, we always come up with excuses. If I can talk, we always come up with excuses as to why we're not going to do something or why we can't do something. There's always some barrier. Well,
there is no.
I don't have this.
I put that in my life.
Exactly.
There is no can't.
Right.
If I want to do something, I do it. And everything I have found depends upon the faith that you have in yourself of achieving what you set your goals to be. And all of them are achievable. And I don't know why more people don't know that. As a man thinketh, so be it.
Tell them. Look into the camera and tell them that.
As a man thinketh, so be it. It is better to be alone than in bad company. People should get away from people who they're not learning anything from. Don't just stay there because you think they can't make it. They'll make it. Just like you go to that job every day and you feel, they can't make it without me. Right. Let something happen to you. They'll make it.
Going.
Right.
Wow. That was major, what you just said. You have no idea.
But it's so simple.
It's simple, but it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
Why do you think it's a problem?
Because people don't really realize those things.
The level of consciousness.
The level of consciousness is not there. And when you start saying that to people, they kind of look at you like you're crazy sometimes because they're not there. They don't get it. They don't understand that. And to love me more doesn't mean I love you any less. That's another thing.
No, it doesn't. I have so much love to give that it doesn't take. In fact, I have to give you some so I have place for some more to come into my life.
Yeah.
But you'd ask me about why I stopped going into the schools. I hated to do it, but once, like I said, I got on the path, and my vibrations weren't strong enough to carry me at the time, that they would just melt me inside when I would see the way that they behave. They didn't want you to tell them anything. We tried to share with them the things that happened during the Civil Rights Movement and before the Civil Rights Movement. And they would say, "You always talking about that. That's then, this is now." And you would spend half the hour just trying to get their attention.
Oh, I know.
The only reason I kept going back is because one or two kids would come up afterwards and say, "I apologize for my classmates, but thank you for coming. I really learned a lot from what you said." And I would drag myself back one more time until one day I was at a school of, what do you call school before high school?
Elementary.
Elementary school. And these kids were throwing spitballs and yelling and talking and everything, and I had to do 3 classes, I think, and I barely got through the first class because I had to get them to clean up the floor. And the second class, they'd start doing the same thing again. So I said, I can't go any farther. So when the teacher came and said, "Well, we go to this room," I says, "No, I'm finished for today." "Oh, no, you have 3 classes." I says, "No, I've just finished my last class." "Well, when will you be coming back?" And I said, "The day you tell me I can chastise them, then I'll be back."
Okay.
And I have never been back since then.
I understand.
I see them on the street. I say, "I'm going to keep my mouth shut," but of course I have to say something, and they look at me like, "Old lady, shut up your mouth." It's just too much.
You know what I've discovered, though, with the children, and I've experienced, I've been in the schools for a number of reasons, whether I'm photographing children, I actually taught them some years ago. Believe it or not, I'm willing to bet that even though they were acting a fool and clowning, I bet you it could be years later.
Yeah, that they recall.
They recall and they've internalized something. I remember that lady came and she told me this and she said this, or you could have said, "You're beautiful." And then they might one day just hear your voice. So it makes a difference. Although I remember we didn't feel like it. You don't know who's listening.
But it's strange you should say that, because I was over at the VA hospital a couple of years ago, and this young lady came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, I finally met you again." She said, "I'm a nurse now because of you. You spoke to me at South Shore High School." And I was never so impressed, and I went and became a nurse. And I said, "Oh, that's great." Said, "And my sister became a nurse." So you see, you never know who you're touching. Now, one of the things that I used to tell the young men was that try to get a trade or education or something. I would ask, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" "I'm going into the Army." "No, you don't want to go into the Army unless you have something to give to the Army. But you went into the Army." But I had a nursing license behind me and a degree, and I knew where I was going to go, because otherwise you just stop a bullet. They don't have wars no more. Well, I've known that many a day some of those kids have said, "That lady said, don't come into this place, unless I had something to offer them. Otherwise, I'm just a bullet stopper."
That's interesting. That's an interesting concept, a bullet stopper. Wow, that's deep. So I want to get back to, we have maybe about 5 more minutes. I want to get back to when we were talking about, as you're talking about the children and asking them and telling them, about careers, why you feel like that a person should always have more than one thing to do. I'm in total agreement with that. More than one talent or trade or knowledge of something.
Well, there's so many needs of this world that if only you went on being a radio host and I went on being a nurse and he went on being something else, there's still a lot to be filled. But then you never know what's going to happen. And so you do this because you continue to want to grow. And it's funny how one thing goes into the other.
That's it.
Works. I remember
Earl heard me say that.
When I was in New York and they wanted an actress who was a registered nurse. And that was me. So I got that role because I was a registered nurse. So you never know where it's going to lead you, Yeah,
one hand washes the other. And a lot of times it's a domino effect. I'm working on something right now that's I'm 5'1". It's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than me. But I'm having people come into my life to actually help guide me, and I'm really, really excited about it. But one aspect of it helps the other.
Exactly.
And then it's all of it's relative at the end of the day.
Right.
There's some connection. When I was younger, there were different things I've done. You know, like I said, I've taught, I've done this, I've done that. But the one thing that was a common denominator in everything that I did was that wherever I went, I found myself motivating and inspiring people. Or excuse me, the goal to be, even with the radio show, that has been my theme, or I believe that's my purpose, somehow to find a way to motivate and inspire people. Yeah.
And you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll go far.
It means a lot coming from you.
As long as you believe in yourself.
Yes.
You have to believe in yourself. You don't wait for someone else to believe in you. And also, don't forget from whence you've come. And always have time to listen to people, you know, and give them a suggestion. If you see that they don't want it, then just shut up. Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll wrap up early. That's so touching. Thank you so much, though, for coming on the show. Darling. My question for you, though, is how can people follow you on social media?
I don't know anything about social media.
But you have a Facebook.
I know I have someone who's handling that for me. And then the Twitter thing and the other, because I didn't really think the computer was going to be around long.
It was just a phase, right, and now we can't get rid of it. Everything is computerized.
But it's okay in its place, but it's consuming people. And that I don't like.
Even the phones.
It's consuming. Everybody's on the phone. I forget what country passed a rule that they could not take selfies because 19 people had gotten killed crossing the street taking selfies. I forgot what country that was. So don't let that steal your soul. Because there's a lot going on, but when you're so consumed with this phone and this computer and everything else, they want to keep you busy so you won't pay attention to what's really going on.
That is so true. I believe that. Okay, well, so Betty Odom, and they could Google you and they could find you. So it's BETTYEODaySpa.com. Your last name is ODOM.
Yeah, but the website is Betty O.
Betty O.
BETTYEO.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yes, Betty O.
Yeah, but the last name is Odom.
Yes. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I'm honored and intend to keep in touch with you and
do that.
Get more.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
I don't usually do these anymore. Been there, seen this, done that. But the best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, and I'm very grateful. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in to Soul, Beauty, and Balance on IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Lonnie Willis. Have a wonderful week.